Hello, it's Ranger Russ at the Meggs Point Nature Center. Really excited to be bringing you another one of my favorite animals. Before I do that, I want to remind everyone that we have a special program coming up this afternoon at 4 o'clock. You can still sign up for it. You do have to get a pre-registration though. It is about horseshoe crabs. So this morning I'm going to talk a little bit about horseshoe crabs. This afternoon we have a college professor that's going to talk a great deal about Project Limulus, which is a study that's being done on horseshoe crabs. So really exciting. If you would like to sign up for that program, you can go to programs@meggspointnaturecenter.org and you can sign up that way. So we have about 100 seats left for that program. So please sign up. I know that we signed up about 30 this morning, so they're going fast. Another thing I want to tell everyone, really exciting news. If you've ever participated or heard of the Great Park Pursuit, it's an event that happens at different state parks around the state. Each weekend you go to a state park and there are activities. Sometimes you're hiking, sometimes you're fishing, all sorts of fun things to do in state parks. Well, obviously we can't do an event like that this year. Instead, we're doing something called the Great Backyard Pursuit. So this sounds really fun to me. You're going to get to do activities and events from your own backyard. So I'm really excited to try one out. After the first week, or actually probably the first weekend, I'm going to do one and I'll do it from my backyard. And you'll get to see me do the event. But I encourage you, go to the DEEP website, look up Great Backyard Pursuit. You can sign up. There are clues that are given as to the activity you're going to be doing. So it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting, and it's going to be really exciting. The parks are still open, but we can't have large groups of people at them. So that's why we're saying we're going to be doing the Great Backyard Pursuit, which I think is just a great idea. All right, are you ready to talk about horseshoe crabs? Now, I did a horseshoe crab program. It was actually the second program I did, so it was a little bit new to me. This is going to be a little bit different, I think. And I'm just going to flip the camera around so that you can see what I am showing you. Okay, so right now we are looking at a series of horseshoe crab shells. Now this doesn't mean that the horseshoe crabs died. Some of them could have been from dead horseshoe crabs, or they actually could be the molt, or the shed of a horseshoe crab as it grows larger. All right, and I'm going to pick one up and bring it over closer. Take this one here. Now if you take a look at this, this is the shed of a small horseshoe crab. This is not a dead horseshoe crab. So the young horseshoe crabs shed a lot. As they get older, they shed less and less often. So a horseshoe crab can live between 20 and 40 years. As they get really old, they don't shed very often. Now at this stage, you're not going to be able to tell whether it's a male or female, a boy or a girl, by the size. As they get bigger, the girls are going to grow much larger than the boys, and the boys are going to stay. If you see this biggest one down here, that's probably going to be about the size of the boys. The girls will get twice as big, sometimes even larger than that. So this again is the molt of a horseshoe crab. So when they molt, they shed their exoskeleton. We've talked about exoskeletons in other programs, but I'll just remind you that an exoskeleton is armor. It's outside the body, and it prevents the crab from growing. You can't grow. That armor does not grow with the crab. So when the crab needs to get larger, it needs to shed that exoskeleton. Now its shell is soft. Its body is soft, which means it can shed its exoskeleton or begin to grow. It will expand itself larger. Okay, so really cool how they have to do that. They can't get bigger unless they do it like that. Now, I really want to show you something cool today. Over here, I'm going to move the camera again, because in this tank, can you see that right there? There's our little baby. This one just molted a little while ago. And when it molted, it left the exoskeleton behind, and then it was soft. So for a while, we didn't see it. It just buried itself. When we saw it again, it was quite a bit larger than it was originally. So really cool that it was able to do that. I'm going to turn this straight down. See if you can see it. All right. Now, horseshoe crabs have been around for 440 million years, give or take 10 million years or so. They've been around a very long time, since before dinosaurs. He's not going to cooperate, is he? Look at him go. If you look at them, you can see the tail. The tail is not a weapon, although they will raise it up if something comes over the top of them. It is not a weapon. That is to flip themselves over if they get turned upside down. I'm going to reach in and pick this guy up. All right, so if you take a look. Now, in my first program, I said that horseshoe crabs have 9 eyes. I actually missed an eye. They actually have 10 eyes. So there's a correction. There are a couple of eyes up here. There are eyes here. There are eyes right in here. All right. If you look, let's see. This one he doesn't want to unfold now that he's right side up. Now, he's got little spikes on his back. They are sharp when they're small. As they get older, they aren't as sharp. They start to wear down. That's a pretty good defense when they're really small like this. But things will still eat them. Lots of sea turtles like to eat them. Larger crustaceans like lobsters will eat them. Big fish will eat them. So they are preyed on by lots of things. There are little spines along the side here. They actually can flex those around. They can move a little bit. And again, the tail, that's to flip them over when they get turned upside down. Or it can be used as a rudder while they are swimming. Now, these crabs are not true crabs. They have 10 legs, where crabs only have 8 legs. So they're more closely related to like a scorpion or a spider or something like that. All right, let's see if we can take a look on the bottom. So the gills are back here in the back portion. These are its legs up here. Its mouth is just behind these little, he's got these little prickly spines that he uses to grind up the food, and then the food is passed back to the mouth, and then it's eaten after the food is ground up. They do eat things like, they live on muddy bottoms, so they eat worms and algae, other things that they find on the muddy bottom. So they're cruising around looking for little things that they can eat. Mollusks, little small clams and things, that'll eat those as well. All right, we're going to put him down, let him swim. I keep saying him. I have not been able to look. I can tell by the first set of legs whether it's a boy or a girl, and this one has not given me the opportunity to really take a look. Every time I pick it up, he folds up. So he or she folds up, so I can't really tell. Now, there are 4 species worldwide, 4 different species. We only have one here on the Atlantic coast. They can lay 88,000 eggs. They lay a lot of eggs. They won't lay them all at the same time. The female will create a little bit of a nest. The male will actually find a female and grab on to her shell and ride around on her shell until she makes the nest and lays her eggs. And then he fertilizes the eggs. And she will do that over and over again, about 4,000 eggs per nest, right on the shoreline, right where the waves are breaking on the shoreline. That's where they are going to lay their eggs, make their little nests. Okay? So someone has a question. Do they breathe air as well? They actually can survive out of water for a short time. Their gills allow them to take a little bit of oxygen from air, but they really breathe underwater. Now, if you look at one of them that has legs on the underside, a lot of these legs that are on the underside are broken away. Okay, so let's look at this one. If you look at the legs, the first set of legs are pincers like the rest of the legs. So this is going to be, or would have been, a female. This is a molt. So she's probably out, hopefully out in the sound, growing and laying more eggs. If it was like a fist with a little hook on it, maybe like a boxing glove, then we know it's a male. And the male uses that first set of legs to actually hold on to the female. He rides around until she lays her eggs, till she makes her little nest. And the nest is made, like I said, where the water is breaking, right where the waves break on the shoreline. So not all the way out of the water and not underwater. So it's on that intertide zone is where they lay their eggs. And they do lay their eggs in the first full moon of June is typically where they do it. So, and it's with the high tide. So then when the tide goes out, those eggs are left on the shore, and that's what the birds like to eat. Okay, let's see, do we have any questions? Somebody's impressed by the 88,000 eggs. Remember, a lot of those eggs are eaten, so they, somebody says, 10, that's my age. I love that. A lot of the eggs are eaten, so they need to lay a lot of eggs. All right, if anyone has any questions, you can post them at any time. And please continue to post where you're writing from, because I'm really curious to see how far this program is going. So the crab that we have is only a couple of years old. That little guy that we just looked at. So if you think that one's only a couple years old, and then you look at how small these are, all right? So they're shedding more than once a year with that much size difference. Now, this doesn't mean that the crab went from this size to this size. It probably would go, well, from this size maybe up to here. And the next one, so they're not all molting at the exact same size. Sorry, wave my hand there in front of the camera. So this one could grow to this big. So you may skip. These sizes are just examples that we found. They're not from the same crab, so they could be very different. Someone's asking about the blue blood. So yes, we could talk about the blue blood. They have a copper-based blood, like lobsters and other crabs. That's a similarity they have with true crabs. And that blood does not have, they don't have white blood cells in their blood. All right? They have aminobodies. I'm not pronouncing it right. But those are the things that are used in research. Okay? Amoebocyte. I had it written down here so that I would remind myself to pronounce it right. I always have trouble with that. So the amoebocytes are what the researchers are taking when they extract horseshoe crab blood. They look at those amoebocytes, they can separate them out, and they use that to test things that they're going to be using in surgery. So it picks up on foreign bodies that would be inside the blood. Yes, someone says we have red blood because we have iron in it. And iron, when oxidized, turns a reddish color. And copper, when oxidized, turns a purplish, sometimes green or bluish color. We have seen them up on the sand, should help them back into the sea. So there's a really good question. When they're laying their eggs, should you help them? So usually they're going to be laying their eggs at night. Occasionally, a pair will get flipped over. A single horseshoe crab, if it gets flipped over, it can flip itself back over. But when the male is attached to the back of the female and they get flipped over, they may not be able to right themselves, and the male's not smart enough to let go so that they can right themselves. If you find them that way, you should, yes, definitely right them and place them in the water. If they're up on shore in the middle of the day, it's fine. Move them back to the water. Don't bring them way out into deep water. Breeding season, they stay in shallow water. So just move them back. Someone's asking, do they pinch? They have little claspers on the ends of each of their feet that don't really hurt. They can do a little tiny pinch, not a whole lot of pressure behind it though. So you don't really have to worry about them hurting you with pinchers. And see these little spines? So these spines are actually flexible. That acts as a little bit of a defense. And if you see here, the spikes that I showed you on the small one, they're just worn right off. They're just little nubs here. So when they're very small, they've got nice spikes on the back, spikes over here. It helps protect them. Now, as they get much older, those things wear off. So the shell, it's good protection, but the animals that eat them have learned and adapted so that they can flip it over and get to the soft meat. Pick them up by the sides of their shells, yes. So if you find them on the beach, you do not want to pick them up by their tails, especially the really large ones are not going to be strong enough to pick them up by their tails. So what we're going to do, I'll show you how you would pick them up. If you find them on the shoreline, you just pick them up just like this. Okay? You can support them from the underside. Again, they'll be pinching you, pushing you around with their little legs from the bottom, but it's not really going to hurt. But that's how you want to do it. You don't want to pick them up by their tails. You could break the tail off. And the female, again, this is a good sized male. The female can double this size, or even 2/3 larger than the male. All right, let's see if we have eggs provide food for migratory birds. Yes, the red knot are one of the birds that rely for part of its migration almost exclusively on the eggs of the horseshoe crabs. So they are very important to certain birds. How big are the eggs? Great question. The eggs do not get really large, about the size of a pea. And not a big pea, a small pea. So if you've ever bought like a bag of dried peas at the store, that's kind of what they look like. And actually that's what we use in our displays. We use dried peas so that they show as an example. Somebody's got a question here. They haven't changed their appearance in millions of years. Is that because their design didn't need? Yeah, I'm going to say that that's a really good point. 445 million years they've been around. That's actually sort of a recent discovery. It's 100 million years older than we thought they've been around. But they haven't changed that much. That means that their design, that the way they're functioning, they're built to survive where they live. So very interesting that they can just keep on going the way that they're going. Now, the Connecticut ones are in decline. The Atlantic coast species, which goes from Nova Scotia down to Mexico, the numbers are down. They are listed internationally. They're not listed in Connecticut. I don't even think in the US they're listed as an endangered or threatened species. The other species are not listed. So in Asia, and they do eat them in Asia, the Asian species are not threatened or endangered. How big can they grow? So they say it's about 24 inches, so about 2 feet. All right. So some great questions there. You can keep the questions coming. I'm going to remind everybody that you can see all of our past programs in our virtual learning center at meggspointnaturecenter.org. I'm going to ask everyone to please follow the rules. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection are working very hard to keep everyone safe. So in order to help keep the officers safe that are trying to protect us, let's try and follow the rules. Keep your faces covered. Stay spread out away from one another. And we will do much better and get through this very quickly. I can't wait for the Nature Center to open. I can't wait to meet all of you in person, all these people that I've met through these programs. So lots of fun, and I can't wait to meet you. Someone's asking, are they still used for fertilizer? So for the most part, they're taken as bait to be put into traps, like eel traps. They do collect them to collect the blood, but those are released back into the wild. But yes, they used to use them for fertilizer. All right. So please continue to follow us. You can like us, follow our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook. You can go to my Instagram, ranger.russ at Instagram, and I do short versions of these programs as well. And if I find anything cool while I'm out and about, I always just take a picture and put it up on Instagram. It's the quickest way to get things out. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Someone else is asking how big do they get? About 2 feet would be as big as they can get. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be doing a very special show coming up. Again, we have the Horsehoe Crab program this afternoon at 4. This afternoon, our 2 o'clock show is going to be a book by John Himmelman. He's going to be reading his book about the shoreline. So I might do a little introduction down on our shore, and then we'll let you guys watch him read his book about the shoreline. So thank you again for tuning in, and I appreciate all of the comments and questions. Keep them coming. Even if this isn't live any longer, we'll look back and watch them. So thank you very much.